Hey there. So, this whole YouTube thing is new to me. So, I'm going to just start at the beginning and get started with this. My name is Telina Cherie Fuller. My birthday is July 14th of 1977. My social security number is 415-379630. I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I'm a targeted individual. I have been using Facebook as my main forum to put my information out. But when I started doing the lives and putting information out on those lives, the rules changed. They started taking those lives down after 30 days. And so I've decided that YouTube is where I need to start putting my information up. One of the places. And so that's where I'm going to focus my energy for a little bit. Anybody who doesn't know about the Targeted Individual Program, what it is a government liability risk management program. It can be, someone can become a target for various different reasons. There is one core reason, though, that's underlying everything else. And that core reason is that this is a spiritual thing. It is very much realistic. It is very much physical here on this plane, on this planet, by very much physical beings here. But this is a spiritual attack, and it's on God's people. It is also upon people that are whistleblowers, that are anti-government, that see through the propaganda. I'll start by saying I go through, I have a couple names. I've got Targeted. Telina is one of the things that you can find me on Facebook and stuff. So I have a lot of good information on my Facebook pages too. That I've been putting up for over 2 years now. Or no, not quite 2 years yet. And another name that I use sometimes is Johnny Justice, JOHNNIJUSTICE, Daystar, DAYSTAR. And I have been witnessing and experiencing this now for over 2 years. I didn't know what was happening for a long time, but it came to be more than obvious. It took me a long time to understand what was happening, because it was so overt, but there was so much covert stuff happening as well. And it was just what some people will use the word, that's the GS word. I don't use that word because I am going through some litigation right now as a pro se litigant. Right now I have vertically I have taken my cases up vertically to, I've got a case in the Tennessee Supreme Court right now, and I have one case in the 6th Circuit Court right now. I have 3 cases, which one of those cases is the one that's in the 6th Circuit now. And then there's 2 additional ones also that are sitting in the U.S. District Court here in the Eastern Tennessee Northern Division here in Knoxville. So I have a lot of video, and I have of what people will term the GS word that I won't say. I don't use a lot of RICO conspiracy terminology, although that's very much what this is, because of the discrediting tactics that I have been victim of already. So I use a lot of legal terminology that just describes things for what it is versus calling it by a nickname, a socially accepted name. So what I experience around me at all times is coordinated, organized, heightened, increased proximal activity, to be so near to my person that of course it's uncomfortable, and that is at all times, and that has been the case now for 2 years. It wasn't as bad until and it was bad, but I guess I go back to the beginning. So my biological family that I was born into, I had really shitty parents. I had a young mother and young father. Me and my mother were never close. I don't like her. I detest her, in all honesty. She makes me fucking sick. We share the same name. Fucking weird, right? And so she was only like 16 when I was born. Father was like 19 when I was born. I detest him as well. Evil motherfucker, narcopath. She's just white trash. He is a fucking psycho narcissist. So anyway, I'm born to these people, and my paternal family is who I'm the closest to growing up. My paternal family, I was born into wealth. So I had my grandmother, who I call my nanny. She's deceased now. And my papaw, being my biological father's parents. And my grandfather, my papaw, and then also my grandmother's father, were highly involved with the sheet metal workers labor union. Well, I knew from a young age that they were into a lot of organized crime. My granddad had gotten out of one murder charge where he shot a man and killed him. Got pardoned for that, I think. No, that one he got out of because the guy was dead. And then he shot a dude in the back too, and that dude lived, but it paralyzed him, and he went to jail for that one. But he got pardoned by the governor because political connection and wealth. My granddad was always awesome to me, although I've heard that I was one of the only people he was always awesome to. I heard he was a pretty mean individual. But I never saw that. He was a freaking teddy bear, where I was concerned. So, when I was born, this big, tough, organized crime dude turned into putty in my little tiny hands. And me and him adored each other. And my nanny, of course, adored me too. My papa was 20 years her elder. So she worked a lot, and I don't remember him working, but I guess he had a organized crime kind of job, so probably wouldn't remember him working. I remember him taking me and buying me fur coats and stuff like that. That's what I remember. So, he had a bar that he operated out of here in town somewhere, and I don't recall what it was now called, but it had a back room. He was a big gambler, big poker player, and he was pretty well known for his gambling and the bullshit he would get into with that. Won my grandmother a shit ton of diamonds over the years. Lost their ass a couple of times, it seems I've heard. Things like that. So I'm born into this family. When I'm born, we live in the house at 7412 Blacks Ferry Road that is now the shop. It's owned by G.T. Fuller Grover, which would be my biological uncle, who is the nationally elected official for the International Smart Labor Union, which is what the sheet metal union merged with. Sheet metal, air, rail, transportation. Now, the house we lived in, the foundation for that they built into the shop, because when I was a little under a year old, my granddad took all of the diamonds and jewelry and possessions out of it, hid them away, had insurance on the place, took us to California and had the motherfucker burnt down to the ground. I come from that kind of a crime family. And then he got to capitalize and cash in on all that jewelry he had insurance on, because he didn't really lose anything. I mean, he burned the house down, but they took out everything they wanted to take out because they had it burned down while we were in California. So that's when I was a little under a year old, because we lived with them, because my parents were both young. And so then they ended up moving to North Carolina. I'm not exactly sure when. My nanny and my papa, they had lived there before, but had came to Tennessee, and then they went back after, after they burnt the house down, I guess. And we stayed on here, being me and my parents. My parents were extremely dysfunctional. I remember them just screaming at each other all the time. My father was he had security clearance at one point. I mean, I don't think he had it the whole time they were together, but he was a government worker as I got a little older, with security clearance. But he was also a cocaine dealer. And the biological mother, or the human incubator as I prefer to call her, I'd rather just call them sperm donor, human incubator. So the human incubator liked to do his product. He sold it. He liked to do it too. Don't get it fucked up. I've seen him high on cocaine more times than I can count. So he and her would have some issues, because he would go to work, and she liked Quaaludes too, apparently. So she was snorting all of his cocaine, inviting dudes over to snort his cocaine. and doing Quaaludes. And my first memory of her was being beside her. I was in the bedroom, and I was trying to wake her up, and I was pulling her eyes open, and they wouldn't. I thought she was dead, and I don't know how I knew what dead was, because I was probably under 3. That's my first memory of my mother. And then the first memory I really have of them, as I remember asking my father why they were fighting all the time. Why were they screaming at each other all the time? And he told me that they just thought that the world turned 2 different ways, was what he said. And I remember saying, well, that doesn't make any sense. Who cares which way the world turns? Even at that ripe old age of 3, I thought, well, that's stupid. It's something to fight over. I didn't understand the deeper meaning behind that. I saw it as a very literal statement. I remember we had a dog, a Doberman named Rocky, and Rocky would not let them anywhere near me when I was asleep in the bed, because he was a smart fucking dog. He would lay in the doorway of my room when I slept, and if they got even close, he'd like lose his shit on them. I remember that I've always had very, very wild and vivid dreams. The human incubator told me I had night terrors even as an infant. It's interesting. What does an infant have to have night terrors about, you know? I remember trying to run away from home often, like getting a little, like tying it up like Huckleberry Finn, little bag of stuff, and I would try to go into the road. We lived out in the country. We had 3.5 acres that now Grover owns, and I'd walk up the driveway, and Rocky was my little compadre, bigger than I was, and he would walk up beside me. He'd let me go until I got to the road, and then he would grab a hold of my arm with his mouth, and he wouldn't hurt me, but he would not let go of me either. He would not let me in the damn road. I remember the human incubator telling me, like, if I said, I want you to play with me or something like that, I want you to go lay in the road. She'd tell me to count. She'd tell me to count. Like that, basically to lay on the lines of the road and count the cars going by. She'd say stuff like that. I mean, I'm a little kid. And so they start, well, I was told that Big E, that's who the biological sperm donor, I refer to him as Big E. So I was told by Big E some years ago that he came home from work one day, and she had some dudes over there. They were all high on his coke, and he got fucking mad about it, and he got his gun, and he shot the tires on her car, and he kicked the dudes out, but he shot the tires off of her car in front of them, and then, you know, intimidating her, making these dudes leave. So they started breaking up, and they broke up and got back together. I mean, I would say 3, 5, 6 times. I mean, I don't know, I was little. Started when I was about 4. And the first time she left, she took me with her. And we went and lived with my maternal grandmother, my mama, who was a doll. She was a sweetheart. But poor, very poor. And Big E told me some time ago that I was nothing more ever to her than a payday. I was a cash cow. I've since come to find out I've been a cash cow to both of them my whole life. So, he has told me that she got pregnant with me because where she was so poor and her family was so dysfunctional. Her father was abusive, or so I was told. She's real close to him now, so it's fucking weird. But physically abusive to her and her siblings and my grandmother. And so she wanted to get out of the house because she wanted stuff. She wanted some more clothes and stuff. So getting pregnant was the way to go. And so, anyway, they start breaking up when I'm 4, and keep this up back and forth, probably till I'm about 6. I went with her the first time, and after that I was like, no, I'm going to stay with my dad. Because she was a drunk, she was a whore, is what it was. She wanted to be, well, she was on Quaaludes and shit like that. But she was a barfly. And she just left me with my mama or whatever. And so I wanted the stability, so I stayed after that with Big E, because then at least I had that 3.5 acres of property. I had animals. And he worked all the time, so I was always alone. But I had that stability of my own space, my own animals. And that was the biggest thing, my animals. And then we had that 3.5 acres of wooded property. I grew up with everything. I mean, I came from wealth. And he wasn't wealthy, but his parents were wealthy. And his mother's sister, very wealthy, my Aunt Kathy. And so I never went without anything. The best clothes, the best shoes, the best of everything, always. I had, when I was 5, I got a 3-wheeler for Christmas. When I was 6, when I was 4, it was a rifle. 5, it was a 3-wheeler. 6, it was, can't remember if it was, at 6 and 7, I got a go-kart and a Honda 50. I'm not sure which way it went, whether I got the go-kart first or the Honda 50 first. Honda 50 special, all chromed out, little motorcycle. I was left alone all the time. And I had these motorized toys and a rifle. I had a gun. There was a gun cabinet that was Big E's, and he would never lock it. He taught me how to shoot. Well, as I've gotten older and I've dealt with all this stuff, I see that I was being set up, even at a young age, to potentially hurt myself. This is a very spiritual thing. But I didn't. He showed me guns, and I saw that they were powerful, and I knew that I didn't need to be handling them when he wasn't home, so I didn't. I never played with the guns whenever he wasn't around. I was good on my motorized toys. I could ride the hell out of those little my 3-wheeler, my go-kart that was fast as fuck. And my Honda 50, never got hurt on them. Rode the hell out of them too. When I got in, well, for my whole life, I would go and stay in North Carolina with my paternal relatives for months at a time. And during that time, I would be up there, and until my granddad passed away, I was with my granddad and my nanny most of the time, and then I had my great papa, or I called him Paul. It was my grandmother's father. And then I had aunts and uncles up there too. But mostly it was my grandmother and grandfather. And my grandfather died when I was 5. After that, I started staying with my pa during the summer. Well, he died when I was 7. After that, I was on my own. I mean, I was in North Carolina, but my nanny worked, and aunts and uncles worked, and so I was taken up there to live for 3 months out of the year. They would come and pick me up on the last day of school, and they didn't take me back home until the night before school started in the fall. And my birthday's in July, so never did I see my parents on my birthday. They refused to ever come see me on my birthday, although I tried. I very much wanted a relationship with my mother when I was young. It wasn't in the cards. And father was just vacant, and he was busy working and having security clearance and selling cocaine and doing cocaine and shit like that, you know, and he was an alcoholic too, always. He was busy plotting stuff for the future, because he's very patient and very brave. So that's the story of the beginnings, of the very, very beginnings. That's how my targeted individual story starts. And I will end that, I think, with saying that when I was in the 4th grade, I took the end of the year, like the TCAP tests, and I scored at a genius level on my testing, and I was told by the human incubator that the government started calling them because of my testing scores. I never heard from the government about them. Big E never told me anything about any of this, but the human incubator, I call her Jezebel Hollywood, she told me that the government started calling them when I was in 4th grade. I do know that that it had been offered for me to move up 2 grades. I was already 17 when I graduated high school, so that would have taken me down to 15 years old at graduation. Big E did not allow that. I was placed into the TAG program, which is the Talented and Gifted program, which I have recently found out is run by the CIA. So I close there to say that, unbeknownst to me, I've been on the government's radar since, I was 9 years old, maybe 4th grade. So that's the story of my beginnings, and I will be back. I've got to stop. I've got to put water in my car because I busted my radiator, and because of the legal things that I'm dealing with, I just can't, and I'll get into more of that in a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and upload this video and put water in my car so it doesn't overheat. And I'm gonna tell my story. I've been keeping this story to myself for a lot of people for a long time, and those days are over now. I'm gonna tell the whole story. So, I'm Telina, targeted Telina, and thanks for watching. I'll be back.